Metal Magnitude covering classic and modern hard rock and metal. Chelsea here with two members of the band Scaphis out of Australia. We've got the vocalist Spyke and the drummer Lance. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Real good.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me today. So you just released your second album with the very beautifully titled Dissected and Fermented, and you did not hold back on the extreme death metal. So to start things off, tell me about some of the overall ideas behind the album and how you guys kind of first came together to follow up on your first album.
So during, obviously we're in Melbourne, Australia, which has the title of the world's most lockdown city. So during COVID, early 2020, during our first lockdown, our guitarist Josh was just sending us a bunch of songs that he had ideas. Some of them were completed, some weren't. And sort of like, hey guys, let's, do your input and do back and forth. So it started from there, and then over the sort of next year we refined it. Spyke added vocals, and then we sort of went from there when we could actually get together and play.
Spyke, anything to add to that?
No, that's pretty much, it's been in the works for a long time, so it's really good to finally have it out in the world.
Definitely, yeah. And then like you said, especially being in that lockdown situation, and then, just kind of doing your best to get things together to finally just be able to unleash and say, all right, there it is, finally, right?
Yeah.
I think it was definitely a different writing process for us because, me especially, this is my first album with this band, but I've never written an album strictly by just putting it in by ear. A lot of times it'll be by feel, you have a jam together and that. So it's definitely a bit different to actually sit down, go, okay, what's this? I'm gonna write it out in Guitar Pro and send it back and forth. It's very weird, but good.
So even though you guys are in the same city, it was still a remote recording kind of situation.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to leave our houses for most of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, that's definitely not a great situation for the music world, especially. But
no.
So what is the status kind of right now? You guys are able to be able to jam together? Are there shows yet back in your city?
Yeah, it's pretty much back to normal now.
Okay.
We just played our album launch on Saturday, just gone. So.
That's awesome. How'd that go?
Yeah, it was really, really good. It was the most intense mosh pit we've ever had. It lasted 5 songs. It just didn't stop.
Yeah,
it was great.
That is exactly what you want. That's awesome.
I think part of that is also because everyone went 2 years without seeing live music. So at the start of the year, we played one of the first sort of shows back, and even though it was very short notice and that, it had a very good reception. And then this is our sort of first live show since then, and we were sort of maybe we're not going to get numbers because there's a few other competing shows on that night, but no, good numbers. Everyone was in. The other shows that were on across Melbourne had good numbers. Everyone just wants to go out again and see live music, which is amazing.
Exactly. They've been dying to mosh for 2 years. they had to go crazy.
Yeah, it was so wholesome when gigs first started coming back. You'd go to a gig and everyone's faces were just constantly lighting up when you'd see a new friend that you haven't seen for a year or so. It was really, really lovely. Just everyone was so excited to see their friends again and live music again. And most people didn't even care what bands were playing. They were just yes, riffs.
Yeah, I think that first gig back, we had a few people were what's on tonight? I just came in because I saw there was music and I wanted a beer, and and that was really good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an exciting, good time, especially to be releasing new music. And, you guys are going to have a chance to get these new tracks out there. But it's, everybody's itching and eager to hear new music, see live shows. So it's a perfect timing for it. So the title track of Dissected and Fermented was the first taste that we got of this album. So what would you guys say about that track that makes it, represent not only the album, but Scaphis as a whole right now?
That's a Spyke question.
I guess I'm just trying to ask, what makes that the title track,
We just all really loved it when we would play it together. It was one of the first ones that was written, and it just seemed even really early on, we were this is going to be a really good catchy song. And then I got the idea from brewing kombucha. I was like, imagine if someone like put bits of people in this gross stuff. That would be amazing. And so it went from there. So it's really interesting, like a taste of Scaphis, and it is about eating fermented flesh stuff. But also, like, even just Dissected and Fermented, it definitely feels like Scaphis as a whole has been like festering away for like a couple of years now. Just like ever since we got Lance on board, we've all been like really eager to get some new music out, and it feels like we've all just been like bubbling away, and now we're like have some beautiful, disgusting stuff to share with the world.
Love it. That's awesome. And I feel like that's also very relevant, for right now. That's a very like quarantine inspired type of topic. It was like tea. It came out of tea. And then you're like, this is a song idea right here. So it's like, I feel like that's appropriate for the last couple of years. And then you were able to make, like you said, something beautifully disgusting out of it. We love that. And then Blood Eagle is the second single rather, from the album, where you guys decided to get a little bit more melodies in there, but it's still got that extreme black and death metal sound. So talk about what's behind that track.
It's about the Viking like execution torture method of Blood Eagle. My band that I was in with our bass player Ryan before Scaphis was called Bloodborne, but before we changed the name to Bloodborne, we had a different name, and in the interim we were called Blood Eagle for about a week. And I designed a logo for that and everything, and ever since then I've kind of had that. It's the sort of gross thing and terrifying thing that once you hear about it, you're like, there's got to be a death metal song. And I'm sure that there's plenty of songs about the Blood Eagle process. But just an epic and very disturbing method of execution that fit the song really well.
Cool. And you mentioned a couple of, kind of lineup changes there, how Lance wasn't necessarily always in the band. You said that you had a different name before. So it seems like there's been some transformation of Scaphis over the years. So can you kind of talk about how Scaphis? Sure, go ahead.
Sorry. Scaphis has always been Scaphis, but my band before Scaphis was Blood Eagle for a little bit.
Got it.
Only for maybe like a week. And then funnily enough, the sort of main head figure of that band was like concerned that Blood Eagle didn't sound brutal enough. So I think he maybe wasn't fully across what the concept was.
I was gonna say maybe if you looked into it a little.
Yeah. But yeah, we had a different drummer for our first album, and then we got Lance on board.
2018, 2019.
Yeah.
I don't know anymore.
I think you only got to play. Yeah. I think you only got to play like maybe 2 or 3 gigs with us before lockdown started.
But one of them was for Bloodbath, so that was amazing.
So like that was Lance's very first gig with us was supporting Bloodbath. It was insane. It was amazing. Yeah, no pressure.
Right. They just threw you into the fire there, honestly, or threw you into the bloodbath, right? That's awesome. Now, and then your latest single, of course, Plague, is an appropriate theme given the past few years, but you've said it was actually inspired by cattle decapitation. Great band, ironic name. What about them inspired you on this song?
Their lyrical content and themes are generally inspired by like distaste for humankind and the devastation that humans wreak on the planet and each other, and all that sort of thing. So I saw Cattle were one of the last bands that I saw right before lockdowns started, before COVID really hit the world. And like even their song Bring Back the Plague is the same kind of thing, like bring back the plague to wipe us all out because we've done fucked it. So yeah, it's really about humans being a plague on the planet though, and we wanted to be super, super clear about like when we say plague with this song, like human beings are the plague and the damage that we're inflicting. So yeah, we wanted to be super clear with the lyric video, which is why I ended up doing it myself, because we just wanted nothing to muddy that message that it's not about like the pandemic or anything like that. It's yeah, just we got to start thinking about what we're doing to this planet that we're on, because it's already too late.
Got you. And I can see how you kind of drew the connection from that cattle song, but then, put your own personal message into it, which is super cool. And you said you did the lyric video yourself?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
yeah.
aside
Chucked
from
it all
this,
together with some stock footage.
I mean, do it however you can. It's just, like you said, getting your own personal message through.
Yeah.
So aside from the singles that we've been, kind of highlighting here, what are some other tracks that are, either recording, writing, or even just listening afterwards felt like particular standout tracks to you guys?
I think we were saying this in another interview we had the other day about like one of the reasons why the singles are the singles is because they were the songs that as a whole, as a band, we were like, this is like the one that we're jamming the most and we love the most. And it keeps progressing. So like I know right now my favorite one to sort of play and like show people is Flesh Prison. I think I think Josh has that feeling as well. So it keeps like every sort of couple of weeks, we'll as a band kind of be like, oh no, this is the best one now. Oh wait, no, this is the best one. This is the favorite. So I think that's really good. The track listing of the album is actually sort of a really good way to kind of take it because it goes like sort of up and down. It's done in such a way that you're not just getting all the heavy tracks at once and sort of all the more groove orientated tracks at once. It's done in a way that you kind of get all of us. But yes, if you're not going to listen to the singles, my personal favorite at the moment is Flesh Prison, so go for that.
Cool.
Yeah, my favorite changes a lot. I really like Flesh Prison, especially like one of my friends is studying psychology, and she actually gave me the idea for Flesh Prison. She told me about this condition called Cotard syndrome that's like you literally think that your body is decaying. And I was just like, that's so messed up. That's a great idea for a song. So it's a really good song. My favorite songs to listen to and show people are different to my favorite songs to play live. Like Let Me Out is easily my favorite to play live at the moment because we play it last and it just really, really fun to do. But Broken by the Wheel, I think, is my current favorite like showcase song of like, look how far we've come as a band and like how sick this album sounds.
That's awesome. It sounds like you guys are, definitely happy with what you came out with it, which is, especially I'm sure, not only were people in general itching for the live music, but you guys were itching to get new music together and out there. So it sounds like you're proud of it, and I'm liking what I'm hearing as well. So that's awesome. And it also sounds like you both gravitate toward Flesh Prison there. That seems to be the main standout track besides the single.
Well, that's like what I was saying is that it's the current one. So I'm sure like in a few weeks, like, because for ages, obviously Dissected was, the first one we all learned how to play together, the one that we wanted to do the music video to. And then, it got to the point where I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, we've played this a lot right now. What else do we want to play? So it's not to say that is like Flesh Prison is like the band's all-time favorite ever. It's just currently right now, that's the one we're like, yeah, it's like time to play Flesh Prison kind of thing. And I'm sure in a couple of weeks we'll be like, all right, what else are we into? And, move towards something like Homicidal, which is probably the one I'm starting to be like, all right, now that I can play this easily, can get into it a lot more. So
I got you. Yeah, no, that only makes sense too. You've spent enough time with the songs and now you kind of see and hear them from different perspectives. So I also want to ask both of you guys a little more on your background as musicians. Spyke for you as a vocalist, lyricist, and Lance for you as a drummer. Just kind of what first drew you into music to begin with, your inspirations, what made you pick up your instrument or start using your instrument in the case of voice that just brought you to music?
So I've actually been playing music since I was like quite little. So I actually started as a guitarist when I was 5, 6. But I had classical guitar lessons, which as a kid, you don't want to learn classical. I wanted to play rock and roll. And then we had a drum teacher come to my school and I was like, I want to play drums as well. And so I ended up just sticking with drums. I was taught how to read music. I can actually play most styles. It's this is my first metal band. Not to say I haven't loved metal music, but I've always been in jazz bands, punk bands. I did a lot of punk drumming in my teens, my late teens and early adulthood. And I've been in a lot of different bands around Melbourne. And yeah, I had a friend when Scaphis was looking for a drummer, they tagged me in the post. And I remember listening to their stuff going, this is really cool. I don't know if I can actually play this, but let's give it a shot. And yeah, I don't know if it was by default that they accepted me or if I was just charming, but ever since then, I've had to obviously, everything that I have done with Scaphis is probably like the top of my technical skill, which is a great challenge. And I'll have moments where I'm very, very frustrated that I can't get something. But then when I do, I'm like, yeah, like, let's play this again. So I think that's probably very general cover of my musical history.
Cool. And how about for you, Spyke?
I also I've always sort of been musical. I played bass a lot throughout my schooling. And I went to study music. When I finished school, I studied musical theatre, which is where I learned to sing properly and use all of my diaphragm and muscles and stuff properly and warm up. And then I just tried to impersonate Nathan Explosion one day and was really good at it. And I just sort of ran with it. And I would sing along to like Amon Amarth and Cannibal Corpse and stuff at metal clubs around Melbourne. And a friend of a friend was looking for someone to join a band. So I went and tried out and got into my first bands. And then, when Scaphis was looking for a vocalist, I put my hand up. So I released an EP with another band before Scaphis, the one that I was talking about before. And I'd been in like a couple of other bands before that, but Scaphis is definitely like the big one. It's the most fun. I also had a Doom project during lockdown, which was really, really wonderful. The people that I was making music with, we all had a really beautiful relationship with each other, and it was really meaningful and special for all of us. And we released an EP we were called Squashed Moth, and we had no guitarist. We were just two basses and a violin and drums and growl vocals. And it was really slow and really emotional, and we'd often always cry at gigs. So that was really special. But that unfortunately came to an end. But yeah, Scaphis is the baby. Scaphis is which I think for most of us, like, it's Josh's baby as well, for sure. And yeah, it's just home. It's like what we do. It's who we are. We're family.
That's so cool. I love that. And, it's definitely great, especially, as musicians, you kind of experiment with different things, have different projects that come along the way, but to have something, like you said, that's, the home and family that you return to, that's awesome. I also noticed, for both of you, you had sort of different things in your backgrounds pre-metal that still feel like natural transitions into metal to me, because, Lance, you saying about the punk and jazz drumming, both of those things can tie into metal very nicely, punk from the speed, jazz from some of the technical aspects, so I feel like that naturally transitions into metal pretty well.
Yeah, and I think it also is a part of, like I said, I'm definitely, from the punk, it's the speed and the aggression, but I also think that having background in a bunch of different bands and styles helps break us up from other ones, because we're not just, let's blast every song the whole way, which there are some bands that do that and they somehow make that sound amazing, but there are bands that they just kind of stick with one technique through their writing process, and that can become a bit stagnant. And I like to think that we're not like that. Like, we have songs that have these little breakdowns and like little groovy bits, and there'll be times that we're playing and I'll look up and the guys are like doing little hip shakes to these little bits. I'm like, can you not? Because it's very hard.
There's like specifically one part of one of the songs where Ryan, the bassist, has like, he always does these like really funny little like pelvic thrusts, like really, really quickly. And he's always like, he always does it and then looks at Lance, and we're always trying to make each other laugh in practice. It's hilarious. It's so much fun.
That's awesome. That's what you need, because I mean, especially when you're singing and making music or vocalizing about, such intense, heavy topics, it's like, in between you're just like laughing and making jokes that just, lightens the mood in the middle of it, which is awesome. And then also Spike, you mentioned your musical theater background, and I feel like that also can pretty naturally transition into metal as well. And especially something like this where it's, an extreme metal, death metal and kind of thing. There's a show, I don't want to say showy, but like a show aspect to that, like a theatricality to metal, especially of this extreme genre, because you're singing about extreme topics and, sometimes disgusting and gory topics. And it's like, you can't just be, standing there just being like, oh yeah, this is a really pleasant thing I'm singing about right now. Like you gotta put the acting into it and really portray just what you're really meaning by it. So, I feel like both of you have, backgrounds that kind of naturally pushed you into metal a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Growing up in high school. Sorry, Spike. I had the same thing. I did some drums for like school productions and that. So the whole idea of especially like getting dressed up and getting on stage and sort of there's definitely backlash in against metal about like, oh, like look at all these disgusting gory things. You must be horrible people or something. It's like no, like it's we talk about these extreme topics and that, and let's put on the fake blood and like the extreme makeup and that, because it's fun. It's a way to like sort of get into all these like little dark things and that, but you're not a dark person. It's just like a little, it's a way, it's an outlet, I guess, being creative and like pushing things a little bit.
It's really interesting because earlier today I mentioned to a colleague that I had this interview today, and he was like, oh, are you allowed to be happy and excited? Because I'm really happy at the moment because I'm taking a week off work from tomorrow to go to a metal festival in Central Australia. Cool. And he was like, are you allowed to be happy and excited, or do you have to be like serious musician styles? And I was like, no, we're very about like just being authentic and feeling how we feel, and we're allowed to laugh and smile and have a good time. I always think that the best metal gigs are the ones where the band are clearly having a great time. And yeah, if you can't have fun with it, it's like, what are you doing?
Exactly. No, that's the whole point.
And the metal crowds are like, I think some of the worst mosh pits that I've been into are not metal mosh pits. They'll be, some very popular teen band, and it's a bunch of kids that have never been in that situation, and it's horror. Like they'll, get crushed and there's injuries. But then you go to metal gigs and it'll be, mostly huge dudes, and you see one poor little chick and she'll fall down and everyone sort of stops. No, help, you okay? Like, do you want to come to the front and that? Like, a lot of metal gigs, everyone's like, oh, you're scary and, you hate everybody. And it's the exact opposite of that. Like, you just make friends and like, you hug each other. And I said to someone, like, we had a circle pit kind of happen on the weekend, which we haven't had sort of one that size before. Like I said, it went for like 5 songs. And, I could see like one girl actually sort of fell over at the front, and everyone kind of like picked her up, like, you okay? And make sure she got to the back safely. Like,
and then she came back to the front, like straight away.
Like, all right, let's go again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly. No, honestly, been there. Same. And that's awesome. No, I mean, yeah, and especially she probably didn't even care about anything that happened. She was just like, all right, got to get back into this. I haven't been able to do this for 2 years. Like, I don't care if I get knocked over.
And she'd never heard of our band before. She actually was in the band that played upstairs. There was a free gig on at the same venue, and she'd just come down after finishing their gig, saw us playing, and just like came straight to the front and got right in the mosh pit and was like, never heard of us before, and just had a fantastic night. So
that's awesome. It was
really awesome.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, live music, it gets that spirit up in you, especially for metal. And it doesn't matter if you heard the band or not. You can discover something new that night. So
yeah, it's part of the beautiful thing about metal. Like, it doesn't matter if you know the band. If you know that you like metal, then you're probably going to have a great time.
Absolutely. And regardless of who's on stage playing, the feel and the ritual of the mosh pit and everything it's the same. Like, you can still get into it regardless. Yeah.
Can you bang your head? Excellent. You're good.
That's all you need. Spike, something else I wanted to ask you about, because you did the artwork on the first album and also the design and photography for the new one. So I just wanted to ask starting with the new one, what the concept and vision was for you.
I was going to do a painting again for the second album, or even like a drawing or something, and then it suddenly dawned on me that I could just take a photo when we set up to film the music video. And I'm really, really glad that I did. I'm really happy with how it came out. I did a little bit of photoshopping and tweaked the photo a little bit. I studied painting and photography. I have a diploma in visual art, so I really like doing stuff like that. And yeah, it came out really, really good. I'm really stoked with all of the album layout for the second album. I learnt so much from the first one. There were so many like back and forths with us and the printers, things that were upside down or things that wouldn't look good on a printed format that would have gotten lost. And they didn't have to send anything back at all this time. It was really, really smooth. So that was really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's lots of little things behind it that you don't think about, like the design and how it physically comes out printed. But when I looked up a little more about the background of you guys, your first album, Rituals of Torture and Death, the album art really struck me because, you know, the thing is with a lot of like old school death metal art and even a lot of modern stuff, you know, it's gory, it's gruesome, and unfortunately it usually portrays women as the victims of that gore. So something that just really struck me was, you know, you have that, it kind of turned that right on its head because you portray that feminine figure holding the bloody knife and really taking control of that gory death metal imagery. So I just really liked that.
That album cover was inspired by our song For the Sun, and the song starts off as like, take the virgin to the peak of the altar, and it's like, oh, it's a virgin sacrifice, typical metal song, but it turns out that it's the virgin who's actually slaughtering some dude as the sacrifice, which I love doing those little twists and like a little bit of a surprise. So that was what was the inspiration for the artwork for the first album. So yeah, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we need to hear more of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Flip that message around a little bit. No offense, Let's.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think one of the things that also made me really want to join Scaphis, besides the music, is the fact that like we are a very diverse bunch for metal. Like, you know, I'm a feminist, Spyke is a feminist, and very much the music. Like, if you listen to the song The Hunt on Dissected and Fermented, it's almost that same message of women taking back their power and also, you know, flipping on their head where they will not be the victims, which I absolutely love because that's a message that needs to be pushed a lot more, especially in music in general.
Definitely, you know, and especially in the more extreme, heavier versions of music as well. So on another note, I want to ask both of you guys, what's your number one album lately in terms of like, or, you know, an artist or an album, something that you've been really listening to a lot lately, outside of your own music, of course?
Mine is very not metal.
That's fine.
I recently got introduced to Cobra and I love her stuff. So she is a Swedish electronic performer. She started off in performing in BDSM sex clubs, and it's very like, it's queer positive, it's sex positive, it's almost like electro clash but brought forward for now.
Very cool. How about you, Spike?
Mine's also not metal.
Totally fine.
I saw Orville Peck on Sunday, so I'm smashing the country music lately. But yeah. always going back to Cattle Decapitation. I'm super excited for their new album that's coming out soon. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, this has been such an amazing time talking with you guys. I'm, you know, loving getting to know more about Scaphis, and you two are both super fun to chat with as well. But I think we're going to have to kind of wrap things up soon. So I would like to ask you guys, what's on the horizon for Scaphis right now?
We've got a gig in Tasmania, which is Josh's hometown, in November, I think it is.
Yeah, end of November. Josh has already started sending me and Ryan, the bass player, some little ideas he's working on. because he got COVID a couple of months ago when he had a week off. So he's just started, putting a few things together. Like every time he gets time off, he's just, I have ideas, So there's a few tiny little things in the works, music wise, nothing set in stone yet. And I think I've got a few gigs we're going to look at, but Spyke is off in the world of gigs and travel at the moment. So
yeah, so we got that gig in Tasmania. We'll hopefully do some shows around the rest of Australia. Start writing new music, and we'd love to travel and get overseas sometime. Would be really awesome.
Absolutely. Well, we'd love to see you guys come to the States one of these days. That'd be awesome. But good luck with everything, the touring, the gigs, and especially the new music. Looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks so much for your time today, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.